Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have the Force of Law Warbond Lawman review, and boy, this one was sure quality assured. So lock in because we're about to break down the most broken Warbond that I think has ever been released in Helldivers 2. We'll start by ignoring the machine gun guard dog video with the canine and dive right into the mechanical problems. Right now, a lot of these weapons stun force or damage or both are being multiplied by each person's lag in the party. So like 4 people is roughly 4 times the damage or stun value, meaning that if you're playing solo, a lot of this gear is substantially weaker than if you're using it in a 4-man. The easiest way to explain this is it's basically just the same thing as the old railgun bug from launch. The first example would be 4-shotting a Bile Titan in the head with the new de-escalator grenade launcher, but needing like 12-ish shots to kill it in the head solo. This will be a massive discrepancy that will either have people loving or hating some of this stuff, so please keep that in mind as we break everything down. Now, lighting this off, I think we'll start with the new armor sets. The drip value is min-maxed to the point that I'm genuinely impressed, and I've snapped some of the coolest screenshots I've ever seen on this game. And across the whole Warbond, I think the most valuable thing about the entire thing is the skins. You get the light and medium in the Warbond, and looking at them side by side, I kind of feel like the medium and light should be swapped. Let me know what you think about that, because like one's a lot beefier than the other one. I don't really understand that. Anyways, the heavy is in the superstore, and this stuff costs about $7.75 for everything. It's really the hat, armor, and pistol that I think you should go after. The actual passive is called Ballistic Padding, and it gives you 25% chest damage reduction, which was actually fairly noticeable on some attacks. If you know how to move your character, most of the damage is going to your legs, armor, and chest, so this helped quite a bit. The 25% explosive resistance does get a lot of value because most of the lethal damage in the game that does end up killing you is explosive. And the last part is with the chest hemorrhage thing, I don't think anybody's ever died to that before, so it's kind of a dead slot perk. I think like maybe in the thousands of games that I played, I've died to a bleed out maybe once when I was out of stims or something. So if you were wondering what is worth using, the heavy variant does make you a beefcake with a good amount of effective HP, and you can kind of just soak a ton of damage. Unfortunately, one of the coolest armors in the entire game is just bad. The medium only has 100 armor, and anything with 100 just isn't worth wearing because you still take the same headshot damage, and the effective HP you get is not worth losing the movement speed that you go from medium to light over. I think that every medium armor should be standardized to 125 so that there's no weird in between, and that leaves us with the light that also just looks insanely cool and was a pretty solid set to run around blasting in and just looking cool. I also don't think that this armor passive is like god tier above stuff like true explosive resistance or anything, but it's definitely a lot better than some of the other stuff out there, and it looks so cool that it's hard to not want to bring it in, and looking cool is all that really matters anyways after you reach a certain point of the game. So having a decent perk to go with that is pretty lit. Now diving into the Superstore gun, we have the new Warrant pistol. There you go, I blew his face out his ass, brother. Back shots. This thing genuinely surprised me at how ridiculous it is to use. It has infinite armor over penetration, meaning that it can blast straight through anything and deal damage to its main health pool. The reason that we blew the Hulk's back out through his front is the over penetration, and it's so good that it lets us shoot straight through the strongest armor in the galaxy. So you don't even have to think about the Devastators with the shield anymore, you just rip right through them. Now, I don't think it's supposed to work like this. It's the same mechanic as the railgun and the AMR, but in pistol form. The problem is, that's the only reason that the pistol is good. So if they remove this mechanic, it cuts the head off the pistol altogether. And I think that it takes enough shots to actually kill targets that you're not supposed to, that it's really not that unbalanced. I think this is actually pretty fine. Like 3 full magazines to rip through a charger's head is not that big of a deal. And when I was shooting Barrager tank in the side of it, it took so many shots that like I kind of just earned it after that point. You know what I mean? So I think for such an insanely cool pistol, I don't want to see it get nerfed. I think that this kind of thing is all right in this situation. And when we start talking about it, the actual like cool factors of it, the audio for switching targets in the aimbot mode is just so satisfying. Like, I don't know what it is, that little like the beeps or whatever, like it just hits for me. And one of the cool small details that if you toggle guided and unguided mode, it flips the little sight up and down. And I think that's just my favorite part about the gun. Like, I don't know. I just love when the weapons have like the small attention to detail, and if you were blasting things with it, overall, I think my favorite thing to shoot down with it was Shriekers, because the full aimbot mode just lets you like not even think about blasting them down. But when it does come down to most targets, you can't walk onto stuff like Alpha Commanders or Bile Spewers, and it also shoots for center mass most of the time, so you need to go unguided mode for those. And because it has the overpen, I actually thought it was pretty good at killing everything that I wanted it to. I'm just not so sure about this pistol's future right now. Again, shooting through the side of a barrager tank definitely isn't the intended mechanic of it. I just hope they don't overcorrect the gun into oblivion. Now, as we dive into the Warbond, the arc grenade launcher is an absolute machine. It has AP7, which means it overmatches every piece of armor in the game, and right now in a 4-man party, it 4 shots of Bile Titan to that, like we showed earlier, and 6 shots of Factory Strider to the eye. The anti-tank on this thing is absolutely insane and just lets you W key down tanks like a madman, and it's only like 2 shots to take out a Hawkeye. It feels so good to use right now, but when you go play it solo, it loses this overwhelming kill pressure, and it's like 2 full reloads for a Bile Titan or whatever because it's scaling off that old railgun bug. So I just don't know if it'll stay this way after it gets the 2 build special, but as it stands right now, this is one of the flat-out best support weapons in the entire game when it's scaled. I do think that when they do fix it, it should be scaled to the 4-man values all the time, and they should focus on making this thing fun first because it does have all these limitations of like single-shot reloading, which is fairly slow. And I did see a lot of people saying that was useless solo, by the way. That's not true at all. I dropped a full solo run exclusively with all the new Force of Law gear, so that VOD's linked down below and timestamped already for you. I really didn't have any problems in that game and managed to rip through it just fine. And when I do go to break stuff down and use it, I always try and think of like the use cases, all the things we've done in the past, and like all the little gimmicks and tricks we can do to make these things work. So that will be the best way to go about using all this new gear. But to continue on, the GL is basically just an anti-tank instead of a horde clear or suppression tool right now, and I think that we need an official dev statement on what they actually want it to be, so that way we know what direction they're going to take it in. I do hope they leave it as the anti-tank weapon because it is just awesome, right? And I think that that's like, it's just fun to use, and over anything else, that's pretty much how I would like to see it stay. One thing to say, though, is I think that its reload animation speed needs to probably be increased by about 15%. There are some weird animation hangs, and if you shoot too quickly after reloading, you do just shoot the floor in front of you. I don't like that very much, so I think that just with a 15% reload speed buff, this weapon would be basically perfect if they had the values scaled correctly, of course. Now, again, we have more cool factor stuff, and it has really awesome animations. When you shoot all 6, you, like, twist the thing and pull it out, and like all the little grenades fly out, and I just think it's insanely cool. But it just makes me wish that there was support weapon attachments to give us, like, maybe we just take half the ammo in, but we can load all 6 at the same time. Man, it would just be so cool to have it like that. Now, let me know what you think about the new GL. I know a lot of people are like 50-50 on it, but I love this thing, so it is what it is. As for the new Pacifier assault rifle, there's not a lot of hidden stuff in its stat line other than the stun force increasing in a 4-man. I found some pretty solid use cases for it, so I rocked it with the Mark II reflex sight and the vertical grippy. I think that this is going to be the overall best setup for it, but one of my main problems with the gun is that it only has 40 shots, which just isn't enough, and there's no magazine option. And with weapon attachments being in the game, I think it's just weird to add a new weapon without all the bells and whistles. On top of that, it has some of the worst reload hang animations in the entire game. I'd say this is worse than a flamethrower, and this makes you burn a ton of magazines for no reason at all. If you fully empty your magazine out, reloading it, just you trip over a pebble, it just vanishes into the shadow realm. So you really need to be rocking Siege ready to remove that weird hang. There's also just a lot of weird interactions with this gun, and it's just not made to the quality of the other assault rifles in the game right now. But despite this gun's flaws, I actually really liked using it. I think that it looks insanely cool. First of all, like when I saw the base camo, I was like, damn. And then I saw the Arctic camo, and I was like, damn. It honestly just looks amazing. That's really all I have to say about it. The audio cue on it's very satisfying. It reminded me of a gun I used to use on Dark Tide called the Mark 8 Braced Auto Gun. Genuinely just enjoy using it. Now, again, it does have its flaws, but I liked it on the bugs the most. I know most people are feeling it on the bots more, but when I did bring it in there, I just wasn't feeling it. There's a lot of weapons I can shoot through Devastator chests with, and a lot more that I can just rip their heads off instantly or blitz them down a lot faster without needing more than one headshot to get the job done. But on the bugs, you really start feeling that stun value come into effect. All the enragey boys like Red Warriors and Alpha Commanders are super easy to kill because you rip their heads off in just a few shots, and then instead of rushing you down, they just bleed out in that animation and you never have to worry about it at all. Stalkers also just get completely obliterated by this thing, and that was my favorite part about it. I think for me, this is something I can actually see myself wanting to use for Predator Strain on specifically the Bile Artillery Seed because it's so good at ripping their heads off. And if you want to know more about spawn seeds and what you'll be seeing, so that way you can always take in the perfect thing, my guides will be updated by the end of the week with videos for them, and those are all linked in my Discord as well. As for the grenade, this is another one that a lot of people are throwing a ton of hate out for because it has its stun force increased per player. If you use it solo, this grenade is borderline worthless. I can't believe this made it out of any sort of testing. You can't stun a charger with it solo, and it does feel terrible to use. And I had some breaches where I did manage to shut them down when I threw multiple of them so that I could stack the stun force, but this is going to be exclusively a 4-man grenade until they fix it.
Uh-oh. I stunned myself. Wait, it doesn't matter. It's a stun grenade. Yo, I am the problem. Come here, boy.
Of the first 4 of these that I threw, one just bounced, so it has all the same problems that Thermite does without the damage. But it really made me think back to how we used to use the old pre-buff Thermite, where the dot damage was so ridiculously high that we used to throw it on chokes, and enemies that would walk over it would just instantaneously die. So the proper use case for these is to just throw them on the ground to deny a massive area because the radius is deceivingly big. I think you could imagine it to be about the size of a gas grenade when it pulses, and a few decent throws will completely lock down bug breaches or bot drops, and that sets up strikes to just cook everything. It also gives you so much time to overthink about what targets to shoot at that this actually fills the stun support niche role fairly well. And of course, everything in this Warbond isn't without its problems, and I do think that this grenade specifically should stun every enemy in the game if they are directly stuck, because it can't do Bile Titans right now, and I think that's just weird because of all of its limitations. I do, however, think, just to go back a little bit, is that it's probably the best grenade for defending turrets in the game because it has no demo force. That also means that you can't blow bug holes and fabricators up with it, though, so is what it is. And I think the second biggest problem for me right now is that you only get 2 grenades back from the resupply, and as a non-lethal with so many limitations, not getting back all 4 or not having 6 to 8 off of spawn at a baseline is really just weird and doesn't make any sense to me at all. Like, I don't know who really ran the tests on these or like played them on tier 10, but like the value just isn't there when it comes to getting them back. Like, I get more pyrotechs back than I do the Urchin stun grenades, and those can kill factory striders. So either way, I do think if you're a support player, this has enough gimmicks and tricks that it does fill that niche like area suppression role fairly well, and I think it's worth giving it a chance the way that I use it if that's your vibe. But again, if you like kill grenades, you're just gonna hate this thing altogether, and I think that just is what it is. Moving on to the Electro Dog. Man, this is the team-killing god of Helldivers 2. I thought that Orbital Napalm Barrage might still be the best at that, but no, this takes the cake, and it will backfire to kill you more than the enemies if you don't have Electric Res armor on. This thing chains like an absolute beast, and it gets some insane kill streaks. It does fire about every 4 seconds. You can see it charging its animation up, and it has the same stat line as an arc thrower, so it goes absolutely crazy when it starts popping off, but its big limitation is that you basically have to be in melee range, and combining it with any kind of damage makes this thing feel really good. I was blasting with the Arc GL and having it just fly around beside me pretty much let me run over everything without thinking, and I think that combining with the Arc Thrower is just going to be electrifying. As for the different skins you get for the Pelican, Car, and Mech, I think they're pretty much the best in the game. I pulled a few times. The majority of chat thought that they like this more than Truth Enforcers, and I do too. So these are a couple of clips of me just going over them.
These skins are fire. Can you stop rolling, please? Good boy. Look how clean this looks, bro. Like, this looks so clean, right? So it's like, yeah, I feel you guys on that. I'm between I'm between the Truth Enforcers and this, man. I think that the Pelican is probably the biggest W for this. It looks amazing too. So this is the stop emote, right? Yeah, this is hold. This is hold. So one of the things that I really like about this emote is when you press W, your hand goes forward. Oh, yeah, you really get the full experience, don't you? Quality was definitely not a shirt on this Warbond. I know that's a meme that we do a lot, but I think that if you wanted to get Force of Law, it's definitely very low on the priority list, depending on what you want out of the game. I think that eventually you'll probably pick it up for free with the super credits that you generate. And I think that that's okay. Again, it's not this overwhelming, amazing Warbond. It's not the worst. There's definitely some gear that's really fun to use. There's definitely some false advertising without the sirens on the car, which is just a little cringe. Like, look at this. Dude, like, this is the hardest picture in the game. Any of the Warbonds, you look through them, you're like, oh, cool, you know? But, like, you get to this one and it's like it's raining, you got the lights, like it's like you're like, damn. And then you don't get that in game. So let's go to the Clay's priority list. Look, you can disagree with my takes on the Warbond priority list, but you're just wrong, and I'm smarter and better and faster and stronger. It's like Homelander, but fat.